Hello, this is Russ Tanner from Global Skywatch. I'm here doing a recording today with Richard Sachs, who is the host of the talk show Lost Arts Radio. And the other day, myself and Max Bliss and Patrick Roddy all did a three-way interview with Richard. We had a great 2 hours of incredible information. I always love doing interviews with people like Patrick and Max because they're just a wealth of information. And we talked in detail about chemtrails, about the chemical aerosols that are being sprayed on us, about the Paris conference and the climate conference that's going on in Paris and all of the news that's surrounding that. And during that time, we had so much information, we really didn't get into health solutions. And so Richard and I decided to take a few moments out here and share some ideas about health solutions related to the ongoing chemical aerosol spraying campaign. And we want to share that with you today in a brief talk, and we will continue these in the future as well. Richard, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Russ. Thanks for having me here. I'm really glad to be back after our super exciting discussion with your friends.
Yeah, this was a great discussion. Again, I love being on with those guys. Wealth of information. I mean, the show is just packed with information. And before we even get started, let me tell people about that so they can go and see it. If they're hearing this interview before it takes place, the airing of this, we actually recorded it, pre-recorded it. It's going to be aired on December 19th at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And the easiest way to get to that, and I do encourage you, please listen to it. And if you don't hear this before the recording, when it goes up, it's going to be archived in this location, so you can hear it at any time. Go to lostartsradio.com. This is Richard Sachs' website, and click on the Lost Arts Radio link on the top menu. Go to the show archive. And I think the easiest way maybe would be to go to YouTube. You can go to Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, or YouTube, and you'll see the whole show archive there, all with titles, and it's very easy to find once you go there. So lostartsradio.com, click the Lost Arts Radio header menu item, and please check out that show with myself, Russ Tanner, Patrick Roddy, and Max Bliss that will be put up on December 19th. 2015. So, Richard, we're talking about health results. We're going to try to make this a relatively short discussion because we want to be considerate of people's time, and we do want to do this in the future as well. But let's talk about this. We have chemical aerosols being sprayed. I tell people all the time on my radio show that I smell and taste this, so this is not a joke for me. This is not a myth. This is a very real pain, a very real suffering that I suffer through every day of my life, and I work through, and I've had to do a lot of work on my own health to keep myself functional during this assault. Richard, what would you say to people about conquering and dealing with the health assault that we're under with these chemical aerosols?
Yeah, this is a really serious situation. As everybody knows, Russ, all of your listeners, I'm sure, are very familiar, even if they don't sense it as sharply as you do, and most people don't have that developed sense for it. They know intellectually that it's not a good idea to be breathing toxic metals, the biological components, the other things that are put in the spray material. And I'm just, speaking to the people now who are at least familiar that the chemtrails problem is happening. That, what they call geoengineering is just poisoning us all the time. And if they've learned enough with their health to be buying organic food, good water, not drinking water out of plastic, which many people aren't familiar with really why that is. And there's so many of these things we'll get into in detail for the people that really want to understand the reasoning. And we'll do, as you said, future recordings like this if your audience is interested in that. For the moment, I just want to let people know, since we ended that discussion on kind of a slightly positive note after a lot of disclosure of terrible things that are going on and the tyranny that is going with it, that there really are very powerful countermeasures available for everybody. They're not super expensive. They exist, but it takes a little bit of education to get from where we are now to understanding them again. They're based on very old principles of nature, really, which are pretty much unknown today. And I tell you, since we're being really brief here, that my research into this started in 1965, not with respect to chemtrails, because I didn't know anything about chemtrails 50 years ago, but I knew about drug medicine, about poison food, about organic food, about the fact that I personally had serious health problems at that time, and I was being poisoned and assaulted by doctors who really didn't know any better. They were very sincere individuals with high-tech solutions, which tended to kill most of the patients eventually. And I escaped from that, and in order to not have to go back to it, I spent the next 5 decades exploring how the body works, how the body-mind together, the psychology, all these different levels of health, in order to find out the solutions, how to get rid of degenerative disease of whatever kind it's called in a diagnosis, and how to reverse what we are told is normal aging. Trying to talk fast because we have a short time here. And I was able to find those answers. There's always more further to go, but the amount that I got together is very powerful.
Yeah, you could do hours and hours of talk show on these subjects, from the psychology of eating to just it goes on and on. Well, share some nuggets with us,
okay.
if you would.
Well, and let me just give you an idea of some of the main points to kind of jar people's consciousness into a fresh perspective, so that they're not just running on a track. And that's one of the things that our mind tends to do, is as soon as we get something that we like the feel of, we just hold on to it, and without realizing it, we get closed to looking further. And this is a very, very deep subject. So the prerequisite is that you try to open your own mind, your own awareness, your own curiosity, your own faith in yourself to be able to do this research and not rely on experts to just believe without questioning. That leads to dead ends and wastes precious time that we don't have. And so what I just tell you briefly right now, the way to get resistance to the bad effects of chemtrails fallout is the same way to get resistance to any other kind of health assault that's happening from environmental factors like poison food, fluoride in the water, nuclear plant leakage, and all EMF radiation, all kinds of stuff. So it's
from your body's perspective, regardless whether it comes through the lungs, through the veins, through the mouth, it's all toxicity.
Yeah, as the chiropractors found out more than 100 years ago and publicized, the body has intelligence in it, which to somebody who's got common sense and perception, this is not what you would call a shocker. The body's not just a pile of atoms. It's arranged in an amazing way that's very, very subtle and incredibly complex in detail, but it's simple for the user. That's you, the person who lives in that body. And so what you need to do is learn to become aware of the basic design principles. When you look at, say, the popular supplements that people take that are based on herbs or food sources, the best organic supplements, those are really useful because there are nutrients missing in the average diet of Americans and many other people these days. But those are not the real hidden answer to these things. The everyday little details of our lifestyle, including what we eat, what we drink, of course what we breathe, which we don't have a tremendous amount of control over, but also our sunlight exposure, certain kinds of specific exercise to keep the lymph system flowing, our mental and emotional patterns that most people are completely oblivious to and are very powerful in affecting your body and everything else. What you're radiating out in terms of your unspoken thoughts to other people and all kinds of things that are going on in your mind, these are really the most powerful things happening and what you're not supposed to become aware of. And at most, you're supposed to think, oh yeah, I better take vitamins. And of course, the drug companies hope that you take their vitamins because most of them are not worth taking and they're contaminated. But there are levels of this way beyond even the best supplements. And they're in a place hiding in plain sight that we would never see, and they're every little detail of our thoughts, words, and actions during the day. And I don't want people to go to sleep about that. It's just that we haven't gotten aware of the fact that of how powerful those things are. What you eat, for example, it's what your body has to work with to build the cells. So you have to know, what foods build good cells, what foods don't. And
your body needs raw materials to do the work that it needs to do.
It really does, and it has to not have toxic garbage in there in the way of those raw materials. And we can't affect, the purity of everything we breathe, but everything else we have a lot of control over. So learning how to do that for best effect is extremely important as far as the end result goes. Not just for resisting chemtrail fallout, but how you age 10, 20, 30 years from now. That's determined by what you do today in little tiny bits, and also where your mental and emotional patterns are going. This tells your body whether to break down or rebuild.
Now, is there? I know we only have a very short time right now, and we're going to do more of these in the future. And I want to, in a moment, mention a project that you're embarking on for the purpose of really helping humanity, and we'll talk about that in a second. But are there any specific nuggets you can share? I mean, I know we could go on for hours, but maybe just a couple things that you could share with people specifically that might help
kind of give an initial idea. I mentioned already, if you're drinking bottled water, great. Don't use plastic, okay? Drink it out of glass. Get good spring water, and if you can't find good spring water that's clean, get purified water that almost all the health food stores are selling by the gallon cheap now. Get whatever fresh air you can. Be out in nature. Sunlight is absolutely critical for health. That's why the power structure says to never get it, and that be afraid of sun because it causes skin cancer.
Right. It causes cancer, but yet it puts one of the most powerful things in your blood. Vitamin D is created.
Vitamin D3, which is not the whole story of sunlight, but it's part of it. It's such a powerful element. It's more like a super hormone than just a vitamin. In fact, when we were on the air with our other discussion about the doctors that were murdered, remember recently? I think a lot of your group members got to hear that. And they were dealing with GCMAF, which was all about vitamin D transport. It's so important that if you block vitamin D, all the diseases like cancer get a big foothold in your system, and exposure to sunlight is the best way to get vitamin D if you can.
Now, that's the best way, but in these days of chemical aerosols graying the sky out day after day, what about vitamin D3 supplementation? Can that help as well?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell anybody what to do, but for myself, if I wasn't getting enough sunlight, I would be probably taking 10,000 units of vitamin D3 every day, and doing some other things with diet, which we will discuss as our time allows.
Absolutely. I know we're crunched for time. Are there any particular superfoods that you yourself use that you found beneficial?
Let me tell you, your listeners, about a program that they're going to want to look into that's going to lead to all kinds of amazing discoveries for them. And that is what I call the Government Seal of Approval program. And you guys, you just have to trust your government, and it's telling you what to eat, drink, and do. You just have to decode the messages correctly. So whenever the government and this is generally what I found, there are exceptions, so be careful and check it yourself. But when government goes after a food and tries to eradicate it from the planet, you can probably guess that that's something that is so good for you, it's like an ultimate superfood. And you have to investigate things like what they've done to raw milk, for example. This is big information, and it's very powerful. And the vegans have missed it completely. Raw milk is one of the top superfoods on the planet, but it has to be produced correctly, and we'll have to go into that in another show in order to be the most valuable.
I use raw milk myself. I want to get into that information in one of our future talks. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to share that, so that would be great.
Well, I know we're pressed for time, and I want to be able to make many of these, and I want them to be short enough so people can listen to them in nuggets while they have the time.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about a project that you're involved in. I know that you have a real passion and a real heart to help humanity. And to this end, you are looking for ways that you can reach out and get this information not only to people, but you want the academics to begin to become converted, aware of these things so that they can start using this knowledge and helping people from a more mainstream point of view as well, and to educate the doctors as to what's going on. So you have an idea that you really think will be effective in reaching out to people. Why don't you share what you've got in mind?
Yeah, and that's true, Russ. I have the feeling that our time could be short right now to turn things around. We've got massive damage being done not only by geoengineering and the spraying there, but by all these other things we've been mentioning. And we need to be creative and get back in touch with our actual abilities and not wander around like the zombies that the power structure wants us to believe that we are. We have incredible hidden power for healing on all levels above everything else. And there are ways to get into it that can be specifically discovered. So what I decided to do, since the people in the power structure are potentially very great allies that could speed up the recovery of our whole ecosystem, I wanted to reach them. And I realized after a little bit of exploration that most of them can't be reached as just a person that has knowledge to share. They want to know what degree you have. And they say, oh, well, you must know about such and such subject because here's your degree. And I'm sorry, it's a totally ridiculous way to think, but it's the way that it's done right now in society. So I thought, all right, what do I have to do? Why don't I just get a PhD in health sciences, and then maybe they'll think I can share this information and it would be worth looking at. So I had no idea what a huge project that would be. And I got myself into a PhD health sciences program. I finished 5 intense years of classwork with an almost perfect record. And I was doing this on a student loan because most of the work I've done has not had any money involved with it. So I didn't. School now, since the government's making it free, is so expensive that, it's hard to afford. And like healthcare and so many things that they're helping us with. But I got student loans, and they were supposed to do the whole thing. But I've gone through 5 years, and they're all used up. And I've got 2 more years to do while I work on all these other projects. And that's for the dissertation. It's the final part of the PhD program. I have to finish that to be able to infiltrate the power structure with reality and try to turn some of those people into allies, showing them in their own terms of science what this stuff is about. And for them personally, make them care about it. So,
yeah, you want to bring this to the doctors, but unfortunately you've learned that if you don't have that title, they don't listen to you. They don't open the door to you.
No, you're right. They just assume, even subconsciously, that you are wasting their time and don't know anything that's valuable. So I've got 2 more years out of 7 to finish the PhD, and it's really expensive. I've got almost $200,000 in debts for student loans at this point, getting to this point, and it's going to be about 65 more to finish, and I don't have it. So I was just going to give up and not do it because I don't have the money. And a doctor friend of mine, one of the brilliant medical doctors I am in communication with, told me, no, do a crowdfunding program to finish school. So I never did one of those. I never thought about asking anybody to help, but this brilliant doctor said, do this. You have to finish. Don't waste the time. So it's up on GoFundMe right now. If any of your listeners want to support finishing this and infiltrating the power structure with real powerful information that could potentially turn some of them on our side, which we really need, then go to the website that this is on. It's called gofundme.com/lostarts. And not if you're having trouble paying the bills, but if you have the means to help us. I need to start this like now. I mean, we're right up against a time deadline, and I've gotten approved to get in for this quarter. start what they call residencies and the dissertation. But I have no money to do this. If you guys want to help me, there's various things that I give, mostly in terms of rare personal one-on-one consulting sessions. If I can't give health advice. Even if I was a medical doctor, I couldn't do that because the advice I'll give is really not acceptable to the power structure. But it's powerful and it works. So I'll give you one-on-one sessions depending on what kind of donation you might be able to help us with.
Well, that's an excellent idea. And I've known you for some time now, Richard, and I know that you really have a heart and a passion to get this information out there. You're not concerned about getting rich. You don't care about money, and I can relate to that. It's not about money. It's about helping humanity. That's where our real, I believe your real sense and my real sense of satisfaction in life comes from, from giving that and that capacity. So I would encourage all of those who are listening to consider going to GoFundMe.com/Lost Arts and consider helping Richard with this endeavor, because his real goal is to get this into mainstream academia. You could write papers. You could have these papers accepted. You could get information into a place where right now it's really hard to get into, but with a degree, it would make a huge difference in your permeability to get this information to these people. Is that correct?
I can get on the inside. I'm fluent in the language of science already, but nobody would listen on the inside without, getting this membership card. And as far as money goes, I just haven't thought about money during this whole time, but some of these things really take considerable money to get them done, and at this point, I want the effect to happen, and I want it to happen as soon for all of us as it possibly can. There's too many people dying of not having this information and having only the drug medical doctors to go to, and I want that changed as quickly as possible.
And so do I, and so do so many people that I know as well. If we could get this into the mainstream, we could literally turn this world around.
Yeah.
Richard, I know we're up against...
Also, one more little thing, Russ. Anybody that goes to that GoFundMe site, GoFundMe/Lost Arts, GoFundMe.com/Lost Arts, give me feedback if what you think of the whole thing, or even what you think of our discussion, or what you think of the other show. I'd love to hear from you. You'll see a contact link at lostartsradio.com.
Yes, you will. GoFundMe.com/Lost Arts. Please go and consider helping Richard, knowing that he will devote his time and his expertise to getting this information into the journals, into the hands of doctors, for the ultimate end of helping humanity. I know we're up against the clock here. We've got to call it an end for now. We're going to put this up on our Global Skywatch YouTube channel. You can find that if you go to globalskywatch.com, and also encourage you to visit and listen to Lost Arts Radio. Go to lostartsradio.com, where you can hear Richard doing his radio show with very prestigious guests on a regular basis. So, Richard, I do wish you good luck. I encourage people, please go look at the video that he has posted on GoFundMe.com/Lost Arts. Check out the video that explains what he's doing and what his purpose is in this. If you have any questions, I'm sure you can contact Richard as well and present him with those questions. Richard, any final words?
No, I'm just really grateful to your listeners and your social media group and everybody connected with your project for caring about these things. And, that's the first primary foundation of getting everything turned in a positive direction. And it's the reason that I'm willing to jump into the dragon's den of mainstream so-called science and academia and try to turn these people on our side, which I think we need to do right away. So thanks for the time to talk about it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having the passion to do it, and I'm grateful that you are willing to jump into the lion's den. I never in my life thought I would be doing radio programs or anything like this, but we both do it because we care, and I feel endless gratitude towards those people who care. I've met so many online friends that are just incredible and amazing people and have helped change my life. Well, Richard, thank you for what you're doing. Please, everybody who's listening to this, check out the GoFundMe and consider helping Richard through this. And that's GoFundMe.com/Lost Arts. And please keep your ears open on the Global Skywatch YouTube channel, where Richard and I will be doing future short quips like this to provide you with health and other information to help you in your lives. Richard, thank you. Have a good night. and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you, Russ.